program today we are fortunate to host is taking a look at Chinese military modernization and the impact that may have on the alliance. And we were fortunate to be joined by some excellent Japanese scholars as well as some American experts for this discussion. This is an important time because the U.S. Japan Alliance is at a critical juncture. We're talking about defense guidelines, we're talking about potentially new roles and missions. So putting China into that discussion is absolutely critical as we try to get these things right 10, 20 years down the road because the China factor will consistently be there.
Well, I was very much surprised to see a huge audience attended this seminar, and which indicates, I think, the big interest among the American people about the Chinese military capabilities and how the alliance can address this problem. And I think basically Japanese and American participants share the common assessment of Chinese military capabilities. But I see some difference between Japanese and American participants about the Chinese political approach to the region. And the Japanese side, I think, is more cautious, while Americans are a bit optimistic than the Japanese.
Today's program, I think we did achieve the goal we set out, which was to begin a dialogue, and hopefully we'll be able to sustain that into the future because China is a very dynamic country. The modernization efforts that are underway within the military are progressing, and our alliance will need to continue to respond to that in a dynamic and fluid way.
Some issues, some topics, both U.S. and Japan work together, but I'd like to emphasize the necessity to work together to establish the international law related to the so-called new sphere of the security, for example, cyber, space, or maybe in the future the ADs. ADs is a very tricky area, but it's very important because China is probably going to expand this, setting up the ADs, and there's possibilities miscalculation, collision will occur. So now in this kind of new sphere of security, Japan and the U.S. take the leadership to make the rule.
I think I learned greatly from this program, especially yesterday. Yan from Project 2049 pointed out the issue of Taiwanese election and its relevance to East and South China Sea issues. The relationship between the mainland and Taiwan had been quite stable under Ma Ying-jeou's presidency. But we expect there will probably be the change of administration in Taiwan very soon, and then we really need to think about how are we going to maintain the stability in the Taiwan Strait But under the current situation, I think this issue will probably have very deep interconnection with the East and South China Sea issues, because so far in the last 7 or 8 years, China could concentrate on dealing with those maritime issues because it had quite fairly stable relations with Taiwan. But in coming few years, probably this situation will change greatly. So I think it's a good time for us to start preparing for the new situation.
As we move forward, it would be good just to keep this discussion going and to incorporate developments as we see them, as they occur. And I hope that we can have this discussion not only in Washington again, but perhaps in Japan. We can bring in more experts on both sides because, again, as far as the eye can see, there will be an important China factor in our alliance as we do our planning. I think projects like this are important because the dialogue needs to take place not only between our officials, but among our publics. It's helpful for both governments to enjoy public support for these endeavors, And as an institute, we can help promote that as an organization dedicated to public education. We can help get that word out and promote this kind of exchange, which then hopefully results in our publics being better informed and thus being more supportive of the Alliance efforts.